Hey everyone, welcome back to Fossil Frenzy, our actual first episode of 2025. Now, I'm sure the thumbnail gave this away, but it's going to be a little bit different of an episode than what we usually do here, where it's about a specific specimen or location or new scientific paper. Whereas today we're going to be talking about a Hollywood blockbuster, or at least the dinosaur designs in Jurassic World Rebirth trailer, which Matt and I have recently discussed. So if you guys want to see that, I'm sure somewhere right above a link will be popping up and you guys can see us talk about that. But hey, let's get to discussing the dinosaurs and prehistoric animals seen in the trailer, which I am going to break up into a couple different categories, being if they are completely new to the franchise, if they are returning, or if they're just usually in the films. So first up, the usual suspects. And no, we're not talking about that classic film, but rather the animals that usually appear in these films or the ones that, InGen originally cloned for that original Jurassic Park. Because I really don't want to speculate too much. Obviously, we have that trailer, but I don't know if it's leading us 100% where the story's going to go. I think there might be some twists and turns. So today I'm really just going to be discussing what's in that trailer and I guess kind of what's maybe canon. The trailer itself says this was the original lab for that original Jurassic Park, where they first started cloning dinosaurs and some things went wrong and they abandoned it along with the quote unquote too dangerous for the park dinosaurs. Which, having some time since we first discussed the trailer itself and just giving myself some more time to kind of think and process maybe what's going on, I wonder if this is more just what the characters in the movie are led to believe and that maybe another company is still using the island today. But at least for this video in particular, we'll just go with these are the InGen prototype dinosaurs. And eventually I'll do a updated video discussing how Rebirth maybe changed the lore and just go species by species. But first up is Velociraptor. Now in this section I am just kind of going off of how much they appear in the trailer as far as just kind of screen time in the actual trailer itself. Velociraptor fossils first come from an expedition in 1923 in the Judokta Formation in the Gobi Desert. This specimen consisted of a pretty near complete skull and second toe. In length, current estimates list these animals anywhere from 4 to almost 7 feet long and a little over a foot and a half at the hips, which is obviously much smaller than what they appear in the film, but there is reasoning behind that because of the existence of Deinonychus. While we did have fossils that eventually were referred to Deinonychus later on, it wasn't really until John Ostrom's expedition in 1964, which uncovered more than 1,000 bones of roughly 3 individuals, that we really got a better picture of Deinonychus, which led to it kind of becoming the flagship mascot of what became known as the dinosaur renaissance. John Ostrom did publish his work in 1969, referring material from Barnum Brown's Displetosaurus agilis to Deinonychus anteropus. In the late 80s, early 90s, there were some that try to kind of lump Velociraptor and Deinonychus together in the same genus, Velociraptor, thus giving us Velociraptor anteropus. And with Crichton discussing one of Gregory S. Paul's books that does this, it makes a whole lot more sense that Velociraptor was found in Montana and much bigger than the actual Velociraptor, as well as skull shape in those early drawings by Crush McCurry look a whole lot more like the dinosaur Renaissance era drawings of Deinonychus, which, not alive, but I do kind of think that this skeleton is a Deinonychus. In the trailer, we really only get a brief glimpse of a live quote-unquote raptor. I'll explain that more later on, but in this shot, we just really see the raptor's feet in what's an obvious homage to the kitchen scene in Jurassic Park. The coloration itself is whitish gray and black, and honestly, not a whole lot to go off of. So I really don't want to speculate a bunch on this one. And while a part of me wonders why the raptor was hidden, it may have just been an editing choice to help use nostalgia for the first film. Next up is a Dilophosaurus. Dilophosaurus was one of many dinosaurs originally assigned to the genus Megalosaurus. There were actually 3 individuals that were found in 1940, with the more complete ones being excavated in 1942. These came from the Kayenta Formation out of Arizona and were named Megalosaurus in 1954. A more complete specimen was later found with head crests, which led Samuel P. Wells assigning it to a new genus, Dilophosaurus. Now, in 2020, there was a redescription of the material by Adam D. Marsh and Timothy B. Rowe. This new study showed a more robust animal than previously thought, with the larger specimen measuring some 23 feet. It just seemed like a more heavily built theropod, definitely more so than Coelophysis, but not quite as much as like Allosaurus. But it was a large theropod. The crest kind of got a redesign because there's not a whole lot of material, but you can see from this awesome paleo art that I have a little bit more of a current understanding Dilophosaurus hypothesis rendering. We do have a little bit more to go off of here, seeing the Dilophosaurus from the back and extending its frill. We have seen 3 iterations of this dinosaur in the franchise. First being the one that attacked Nedry. Second was that one that was on display in the Lockwood Mansion. This was a part of that diorama with a pair facing off with a Lost World style raptor. Early interviews said the dioramas were taxidermied animals, but then later interviews said they were just models, which honestly was super dumb. The dino dioramas were very clearly based off of museum dioramas of taxidermied animals, and this was one thing that bugged me with these previous 3 films was the fast and loose nature of what was and wasn't canon, or just contradicting themselves in different interviews. Because by Dominion, it just felt messy and super retconny. But speaking of Dominion, that's where we get our most recent appearance. Of these color schemes, the original iconic, the Lockwood Green, and Dominion one, this one definitely seems to share the most with Jurassic World Dominion. Now, overall, the Dilophosaurus really hasn't changed shapes. Overall, the body plan, head shape, crest shape, even the smaller size to distinguish it from the Velociraptors has pretty much stayed the same. With this film maybe being about prototype dinosaurs, with some having weird mutations, I think keeping the Dilophosaurus design the same here makes sense. With the island of misfit dinos housing mutations, maybe the dilos were just a batch that obviously had a mutation in the frill and just slipped past, or were deemed acceptable because maybe just Engine really liked the frill design. I don't know. Or, they were just hybrids with frog DNA. But on to what we're seeing here in the trailer. We see the Dilophosaurus extending its frill. We see it as a kind of greenish color with orange on the frill and black spotting, as well as the iconic Jurassic Dilophosaurus sound. Now, this scene, you can also see the Tyrannosaurus maybe sleeping in the background there. At least that's what it kind of looks like, which does fit in with this being the raft scene from the original Jurassic Park novel by Michael Crichton, which in it, a pair of Dilophosaurs did encounter the T-Rex as the Tyrannosaurus is, chasing Grant and the kids downstream in the raft. When this one popped up in the trailer, I was surprised because I hadn't even really heard leaks that the Dilophosaurus was supposed to be in this one. So super cool to see it back. Now it will be interesting to see how this movie kind of shakes up the history of Dilophosaurus as far as in canon in the Jurassic universe. We have seen the Engine Dilophosaurus and we've seen the Biosyn Dilophosaurus. Not a huge change outside of color scheme. We've also seen maybe what was an early prototype. Again, the taxidermied ones make more sense. It's just kind of dumb that they were models that just happen to look 100% before any of the dinosaurs. That's just stupid, but kind of small rant aside. It will be interesting to see if they maybe say, yeah, the frill and the venom were mutations and just slipped through to the original park, or because they were trying to maybe fast track the park opening. They were like, it's got mutations. It's fine. They're going to be behind a cage. No one really knows. Just throw it out there. I don't know. At the same time, I've seen people upset that it looks more like the Dominion one. But again, Dilophosaurus really hasn't changed a lot as far as shape or size. So outside of color, not a whole lot different. We might see a couple like in the original raft scene. So maybe the other one will have a different color. I don't know. Again, don't want to speculate too much, but would be really cool to see like a 20-foot Dilophosaurus finally in the Jurassic films. And this is bringing us to our final dinosaur in this category, at least. which is probably one of the most iconic dinosaurs, definitely in the franchise, if not of old time. It also is probably one of, if not the most studied prehistoric animals, let alone dinosaurs of all time. And that is the one and only king of the dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is obviously the logo of the Jurassic series outside of Jurassic Park 3, with the logo itself being based off of AMNH 5027, which is super cool. You guys can go visit it in New York. Tyrannosaurus is a genus of large theropod dinosaurs containing two species, Rex and Macraensis, which is a recent find or recent redescription of some fossils out of New Mexico, which we have done a video of, so link above. The earliest fossils were loose teeth. One of these was actually found right here in Colorado. Edward Drinker Cope would find two vertebral fragments, which he named Manospondylus gigas. In fact, a 2000 expedition by the Black Hills located Tyrannosaurus material at the location that may have actually been the original Manospondylus locality. Now, later on, both Tyrannosaurus and Deinonychus were named in 1905, but in 1906, Henry Fairfield Osborn selected Tyrannosaurus as the preferred name after he noticed, obviously, some similarity between the two. Tyrannosaurus as a name took precedence over Manospondylus thanks to the ICZN rules about its widespread usage. Pretty much, Tyrannosaurus became a nomen protectum, or protected name. The largest specimens of Tyrannosaurus, Scotty and Sue, reached up to 43 feet long and possibly up to, if not just shy, of 10 short tons. I mean, these are massive, massive dinosaurs. We've done quite a bit around Tyrannosaurus, especially Sue. We have quite a bit of videos regarding Sue on the channel. Just an awesome specimen. I have actually not seen Scotty in person yet. Hopefully at some point soon in the near future I'll be able to, but when you're next to him, I mean, it's just crazy how big a land predator could get. I mean, these things were massive. But Tyrannosaurus has been around in Jurassic, at least from the beginning, be it the book or the film. T-Rex was there. T-Rex was the logo. The Tyrannosaurus breaking out of the paddock, and that scene just so iconic and so tense and just holds up so well even to today. Now, this first Tyrannosaurus would be called Roberta. At least on set, that's kind of the nickname it got. Later on, it did get Rexy, but no matter which side of the fence you sit on, if you call it Roberta or Rexy, this same Tyrannosaurus would show up again in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and Dominion. Now, towards the end of the series, it definitely became more of like a superhero type of dinosaur that would battle the evil dinosaur, whatever, be it the Indominus or the Giganotosaurus. Where in the first film, it really just killed the raptors because it was hunting them and just happened to save the humans. It wasn't like trying to help them or whatever. Now, as far as the full-size replica they made, it was about 40 feet long. Rexy slash Roberta, as far as like whatever is canon, I don't even know anymore. Originally, the books and everything that came out around the original Jurassic Park just listed the Tyrannosaurus at 40 feet long. Later, in some of the more recent stuff tying with like Dominion or Fallen Kingdom, the Tyrannosaurus is up to like 45 feet long. Just seems kind of like it got a size buff to try to outclass the Spinosaurus, which we'll get to. As far as design of this Tyrannosaurus, kind of just a brown one, differing from the book that was red. We got the famous Red Rex Kenner toy, which was more in line with the book description. But as far as this like brown coloring, the shape of T-Rex's head, it's super iconic. You see even like documentaries where they make 3D models, they look like this Tyrannosaurus. I mean, it's made an impact. We would get some updated designs later on with the Buck and Doe, as well as Junior in the Lost World, whereas the Buck was more green in color, showing maybe some sexual dimorphism. With the male Tyrannosaurus being green, we would see this again with the Bull Rex in JP3, which was just a reskinned animatronic of the Buck from the Lost World. So same size and everything, but again, it got nerfed in size once it got killed or whatever. So as far as live action Tyrannosaurs, those are the only ones we've seen so far. The Buck and Doe coming back again in Dominion, meeting up with Rexy, and I guess kind of a fun little send off for Rexy, gets to go live with more of her own kind, though more did show up in like Camp Cretaceous. Uh, Again, just kind of sporting the same overall design with maybe different colorations. Now, the Tyrannosaurus we see here in this scene is obviously going to be the Rex recreating the raft scene. When the characters are going by here, it looks like the Tyrannosaurus is sleeping and roars as it's waking up at the people. Probably disturbed it, maybe with some help of the Dilophosaurus that we saw earlier. And then the Tyrannosaurus comes in and it looks like attacks them obviously in the water, much like the raft scene. We do get some scenes where it's biting at somebody in the water. Now, this design still holds true to the Jurassic design, but shows some small changes. The coloration is super cool. It's not quite a green like the buck we saw or the bull, more of a brown with maybe some green slash some oranges. Some of the shots look kind of orangey in color, as well as it has large scoots on the side of its lower jaw that look kind of lizard-like, iguana-like. Again, if these are kind of like dinosaurs with mutations, it fits in. Maybe Engine just wasn't getting the dinosaurs completely right. Maybe that's why they switched to frog DNA. Maybe they liked the designs of those better, looked less lizard-like, because they're like, hey, the dinosaur renaissance would have happened pre-Jurassic Park in that universe too. So they would know, hey, it's supposed to look more bird-like than lizard-like. So maybe it's just whatever they were mixing with the dinos. If this is truly the route they're going, just made them look more reptilian. This one does look very bulky. Maybe the most bulky Tyrannosaurus we've seen since the original trilogies. I mean, it just looks massive. So it's going to be super cool to see. When its head is in the water, you kind of see some maybe orange coloration. I'm digging this design. It's maybe one of the better designs. Also, it looks super, super good as far as like the detailing. For being the first trailer, sometimes CGI is not that good when you first see it, and then they have some more time to work on it, really just like hone in and make those details, those fine details really pop. At least in this shot, I mean, look at the scales around the mouth. I mean, they're just, it's so well detailed. It looks so much more real, I think, than anything we saw from the previous Jurassic World films. I mean, when this still shot got released in Variety, I was like, I'm on board. Like, this looks good. Outside of just the film coloring as well. So I'm really excited for this design. We'll see if this was an early prototype. Again, not so much of a change, but again, being a dinosaur that was featured in the original Jurassic Park, maybe they were just able to fine-tune the cloning process for this species a lot earlier on in the process. Maybe not super early on. We'll get to that at another section, but at least, yeah, it looks good. I'm excited to see this in action. From what it sounds like, Tyrannosaurus probably won't be a huge part in the film, but it's cool, even though it's gonna be a small part. Maybe it's an iconic scene from the book, that raft scene that led to the theme park ride where the Tyrannosaurus comes out of the waterfall. And yes, early on there is a skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus as the museum itself's being taken apart, which pays homage to the ending of Jurassic Park, even the banner coming down. There's been some people speculating that this is Rexy, Roberta, whatever, at some point died in the Biosyn Sanctuary, and I guess they collected the bones. I don't think this is the case, but maybe I'm wrong. Mainly just because, like, the raptor skeleton we saw earlier, it's not the size or shape of any other raptors we've seen in this series. So I think probably just going to end up being a random Tyrannosaurus, but maybe they say, hey, this is the original Tyrannosaurus, look how big it is. But that brings us to our second section, the new dinosaurs, which, yes, there's a question mark because the new stuff in here, even the one actual dinosaur, maybe not real. Obviously, we'll discuss more about this section here, but these are critters that are showing up for the first time ever in the franchise. So pretty exciting to see something brand new. I think so far what the trailer's shown off is a good mix of what we expect from Jurassic, some new stuff, and some returning stuff. So there's a good mix and kind of meshes all together. But yeah, these guys are going to be new animals. So first up, we'll talk about the dinosaur, and that one being Titanosaurus. Titanosaurus was discovered in 1828, or at least the vertebra that eventually became the holotype. These fossils were described in 1877 by Richard Lydecker, and for a long time, these fossils were thought to be lost. And it wasn't until 2012 that a discovery recovered at least one of these holotype vertebrae. Now, Titanosaurus as a genus was very similar to like Megalosaurus and I guess Troodon, being that it was almost being treated like a wastebasket taxon where things were just thrown into it. And this has led some to say that the name Titanosaurus is a nomen dubium, since the original material is undistinguishable from related dinosaurs. Like the specimen we have today, that's Titanosaurus, doesn't have a trait that's diagnostic to just it and can distinguish it from other related dinosaurs. But Titanosaurs includes some of the largest land animals to have ever existed, at least that we know of so far. Currently, at least with a good amount of material, the largest we know of is Argentinosaurus, the Brachiosaurus, and Maripunosaurus. Maybe won a challenge for that title, but Argentinosaurus itself. The first bone was discovered in 1987, and it was a 1989 excavation of the site by Jose Bonaparte, which uncovered additional elements of the same individual. The official description of Argentinosaurus was published in 1993 with Rodolfo Correa, who we've talked about on the channel thanks to
a new baby to the world, a big baby. Giganotosaurus means giant reptile from the south,
with Korea helping name it in 93. While the material is good for a large sauropod, it is still incomplete, making exact size estimates difficult, though recent estimates give sizes of from anywhere from 100 to 115 feet long and up to 88 short tons. Truly massive. I mean, we've seen a Titanosaurus skeleton in New York with the Patagotitan that they have. Patagotitan is a more recently described titanosaur, having been named in 2017. Currently, it is estimated to be slightly smaller than Argentinosaurus, at up to 102 feet long and roughly 63 short tons. But yeah, it's super massive. They got it in a couple different rooms. Its head's poking out into the hallway, its body's in one room, and its tail goes kind of into another. I mean, I remember walking around the corner and seeing it the way we were traversing the museum, and it was like, wow, it's huge. The one in the Field Museum's in a big open atrium, where you walk in and it's like, oh, it's really big, but the room's so huge. Like it made Sue look small because the room is just massive. And I hope at some point to get to the East Coast to see that Argentinosaurus, because having seen the Patagotitan, I can only imagine that Argentinosaurus is massive. What is being called a Titanosaurus in Jurassic World Rebirth, we first see in a scene kind of maybe trying to bring out those like nostalgia feelings, and it's pretty much a sauropod scene we've gotten in a lot, the ooh ah scene. Originally in Jurassic Park, they pull up, they see the Brachiosaurus, they try to do it in Fallen Kingdom. We've gotten it kind of in Jurassic Park 3 with the green Brachiosaurus. I'm guessing we're going to get something similar, but at the same time, the plot itself is about getting DNA from the largest dinosaurs from land, sea, and air. And so the Titanosaurus is going to factor into that because it is going to be the largest dinosaur seen in the Jurassic franchise so far, beating the Dreadnoughtus from Dominion. Now, this design looks super cool and it's super colorful. A lot of the Jurassic sauropods are kind of like dark blues, blacks, browns. Outside of Jurassic Park 3, we really don't get any kind of like super vibrant colors. These ones are really cool. They're like an oranges in color with like white striping, even seen on the tail there. Tail is super long. Definitely something that maybe will be explained away with a mutation, as well as these fin-like structures that are more like a Margosaurus. And it seems like the head itself has a weird kind of like bulbous shape, kind of reminiscent to like a xenomorph. I don't know. Again, these dinosaurs are supposedly prototype engine dinosaurs, and they just weren't being able to get the DNA quite right yet, and that's why they have some mutations. Totally fine with it. If you want your dinosaurs to not be scientifically accurate in the Jurassic franchise, saying something like that explains it away. That's fine. I'm fine with it. I know some people wanted to go the other way and wanted to become more realistic, but it's not bad. I mean, look at how the Titanosaurus is holding up its neck. It's very reminiscent of this model by PNSO of an Alamosaurus, which is a Titanosaur from North America, which wasn't quite as big as the previously mentioned Titanosaurs, but was still pretty large, around 70 to 80 feet long, with some even claiming up to 100 feet long. Definitely in contention for the largest North American dinosaur. But you can see the similarities between this model and the design as far as the way it's holding its neck up. Looks really good. The other one that's laying down looks like it's laying down in more of a natural pose, so pretty neat. I wonder if the long whip-like tail is going to be used at all. Like maybe it's going to be used to like fend away something. Maybe whip at the cast. I don't know when they're trying to get the DNA. But I like the design. I think it's really cool. It's different. It's unique. It's going to stand out. When I had heard the leaks about the fins and seen some early kind of like people sketching what they thought it was going to look like, I was like, whew, I don't know if I'm on board with that. But having seen them in the film, like, I'm open to it. Like, it looks pretty cool. And again, just vibrant and sticks out and it's unique. Again, the naming, not 100% sure why they didn't go with Argentinosaurus, but I guess it's sort of like Ark, which we've talked about with the Titanosaur there. Just a easy, recognizable name that, you know, kids can say, because at some point they're going to want to sell the toys, and Titanosaur is going to be easier than Patagotitan or Argentinosaurus or anything like that. So not 100% sure how big this guy is going to be. Like I said, we'll be doing updated ones later on, but it's definitely far bigger than the actual what could be a Titanosaurus. So the next one we're going to talk about is a raptor that looks to be like in a test tube, maybe a cryogenic sleep, I don't know. But one of these maybe like test specimens, very similar to what we saw in Jurassic Park 3 with the embryonics lab. And when I first viewed the trailer, really just kind of came off like an adult tiger stripe velociraptor, which again kind of tied in those dinosaur dioramas from the Lockwood Mansion, that the raptors that we saw from the Lost World were maybe the first batch. And that's why there was a taxidermy modeled, whatever it is, in Lockwood Mansion that was also tiger stripe. It wasn't the same brown coloration from Jurassic Park. Of course, on rewatch, and definitely when I saw the trailer in theaters, it looks like this one has two heads. So at some point during the cloning process, this specimen developed polycephaly, which is a real condition where an embryo doesn't fully split during the twinning process and ends up with an animal with two heads. So this is kind of a cool little thing to look at. If this is really like early prototypes, was they were splicing the genes together and somehow maybe just turn that gene on for the polycephaly, or maybe there's another reason, which again, don't want to speculate too much. We'll just have to wait till the movie comes out. But speaking of mutants, we'll get this one out of the way around the halfway mark in the video, because there's going to be a mutant dinosaur. Now, we haven't had like a mutant in this form, I guess, so far in the Jurassic franchise. We obviously had hybrids in Dominion and Fallen Kingdom, as well as the idea of like a super raptor. Or if you're around my age, you remember like the Chaos Theory kind of weird mutation dinosaur toys and that failed series that was going to come out. But yeah, the mutant was a animal that was rumored pretty early on that there was going to be a mutant dinosaur in the film, which is something I was like, please no, because I wanted to get past the hybrids, and I also didn't want to go into the dinosaur human hybrids, which was a stupid idea, and I'm glad they did not do that, because I think it would have killed the franchise. We saw from the Variety article that this one kind of came to fruition thanks to mixing of like the Rancor from Star Wars, The Return of the Jedi, the xenomorph aliens, and the original Tyrannosaurus Rex, which, if this island is truly engine prototypes, this mutant could just be a Tyrannosaurus gone wrong. In the scene where it's coming closer to the guy behind the glass, you can actually see like two Tyrannosaur arms. So I definitely think this was a Tyrannosaur clone gone wrong. Though it does make me wonder, if this was a Tyrannosaur clone gone wrong, has it been locked away this whole time? Because there is a Tyrannosaurus obviously loose on the island. We see it earlier in the trailer. So was this mutant just one that they were like, well, we messed up, and is this why maybe they switched to like frog DNA? I don't know. Or were these few mutants that we've seen just like early test ones, and obviously they were able to refine it, make the Tyrannosaurus, because bam, we got that really nice looking T-Rex. Or could there be someone else making dinosaurs on this former engine site? Could be another thing, because I guess in lore the mutant here would have to be like 40-ish years old, because it has to be pre the original park, so definitely over 30 years, so 40, maybe up to 50 years in age, because the movie does take place 5 years past Dominion. So it would be super old. So I guess as far as mutations go, it's lived a long life, if that's the case. Now its design is very maybe Cloverfield S2 with the way it walks on its knuckles. Pretty much any design that's come out after Cloverfield that has the knuckle walk, I'm like, whoa, Cloverfield. But I will say I was not on board at all, and I slowly have gotten won over with the mutant idea. And at least it looks like they're not going the human dino route, which would be terrible. Looks like some company, be it Engine, whoever, was just trying to recreate dinosaurs and just it went wrong. This was supposed to be a Tyrannosaur. You even see it almost in the shape of the jaw, where it looks like the bottom of the jaw of a Tyrannosaurus. Obviously, those small arms. And this thing's massive. It's going to be hunting our cast, it looks like. Obviously, we see Ali here. We see them on looks to be a dock here with the hand coming out of the forest. And in what could or could not be a flashback scene, we see it peering behind this dude behind the glass. Definitely very Rancor-esque. I see the inspirations there. I think it's going to be a hard sell for some people. It's very maybe not a Jurassic thing for some. Even the hybrids that we saw in the two films looked like dinosaurs. This one looks nothing like it. It looks like a mess. I mean, its head's like big. Can it even really see well? Does it use echolocation? I don't know. I'm actually kind of excited to see this thing in action, to see how it actually like functions as an animal. Can it even function well enough to properly hunt these people, or does it use the cover of darkness, or do they release it? Is it actually more of a recent thing and they accidentally release it onto the island? It'll be something we'll have to come back and talk about post movie release. A lot of people are calling the mutant a D-Rex, which was one of the earlier names for the Indominus. Even on some, I think, promotional material before it got the Indominus name was listed as Diabolus or D-Rex. But yeah, this one's growing on me, and I think, at least with the director we have with Gareth Edwards, I think it will be properly shot. And I just hope it delivers. I heard there may or may not be an epic dinosaur fight at the end, and just hope it pays off. So, but that brings us to our final section today, and that is the returning animals. Now, by returning, I mean that some of these have not appeared in the Jurassic franchise for a long time, while others have featured recently, but they're returning and maybe just made by Engine this time compared to the other times, or a different company. We'll find out. Again, I don't want to speculate too much. So yeah, these ones are going to be a dinosaur and two prehistoric animals that are returning and have been redesigned, we'll say. Again, with this section, I'm sort of going off of how much screen time they get. The Mosasaurus just gets kind of a brief scene as it breaches to, it looks like, attack the boat. In the real world, the first Mosasaurus fossils were found in 1764 and then again in 1780, and both times were described as either a whale or crocodile. It wasn't till later, and with more descriptions showing similarities and traits with monitor lizards, that it was a marine reptile. Mosasaurus was coined in 1822, with modern estimations of its size reaching anywhere from 36 to 56 feet, depending on the species you're looking at. Mosasaurus itself has appeared in the Jurassic franchise, thanks to the clone by the Masrani Company in Jurassic World, giving us the SeaWorld-esque scene of the Mosasaurus performing for a large crowd where it jumps up and eats a large great white looking shark, and then again in the climatic battle with the Tyrannosaurus, Indominus, and Blue, where it would leap up and finish off the Indominus. Now, this same Mosasaurus did feature in Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, albeit in much smaller capacity. Mainly in Fallen Kingdom, it was at the beginning with the sub-retrieval of the Indominus bone, as well as showing up to maybe eat the surfer, I don't know. Looked like it, but apparently in the extended canon, not written about, so definitely ate the dude. And then in Dominion showed up to attack a fishing boat, and then at the very end, was just hanging out with some whales. So in canon, this one was cloned by Masrani for the new Jurassic World theme park. Its coloration is a blue-gray in color, and a lot of the early promotional material listed it around 56 feet long, much more in line with an actual Mosasaurus. But as far as the films show it, at some points it's well over 100 feet long. Just comparing it to what it's around, what it's attacking. So the size of this one fluctuates all the time. So overall, not good continuity between any of the films or even just scenes in the same films. I mean, when it's attacking that great white shark, if that's a big great white shark, like even a 15-footer, that's kaiju size. It's a kaiju size mosasaur. Now, the mosasaur we see in the trailer definitely has a different design. A lot less of those crocodilian-like scoots on its back, which seemed more in line with very early day mosasaur designs, which definitely made it seem like something out of paleoart's past rather than an up-to-date kind of reconstruction, even if it's Jurassic Parkified, which is actually kind of strange because if you look at this scene here, they actually gave it the second pair of teeth on the roof of its mouth here, like we know it had from its fossil. So overall, just kind of a strange mix of past and present research than what we've seen from the trailer and the design there, where it seems a lot more up to date. It looks a lot smoother, still massive size. I mean, it dwarfs the Spinosauruses. So the Mosasaurus still has a huge size, which makes sense because it's one of those other two biggest dinosaurs that these guys are going after. Now, obviously, mosasaurs, they aren't dinosaurs. They are much closer in relation to monitor lizards. Outside of the rough texturing being gone, and in this one being smooth, the coloration is different as well. The previous one was blue. This one is green with like a white underbelly, kind of like sharks have this counter shading, or even some whales have this counter shading. It also has its tail fluke. Some people have said this is Megalodon, but outside of those jaws showing up in the trailer, I doubt we'll see a living Megalodon. Just too much of the Meg going on. I don't know if they want to confuse the two right now. But yeah, it looks like it has a lot better shape to it as well. It definitely looks more in line with modern interpretations of a Mosasaurus. Again, this opens the question to, if these were the prototypes, why by the time we get to Masrani, who's supposed to be like so good at cloning that they're able to splice different dinosaurs together to make the Indominus, why does it look so backwards? But it just feels odd, as well as why didn't it leave these waters like it could have swam? I mean, look at the last three films where the Mosasaurus escaped its tank and was just cruising around the oceans. Like, how did this one stay secret for such a long time if these were truly the prototypes? Will they explain it? Were these the prototypes? I don't know. But overall, I think the design looks good. Was not expecting such a heavy remodel of the Mosasaurus, but it's definitely a pleasant surprise. It brings in more of maybe the current understanding of Mosasaurus while still being able to Jurassic Parkify it and keep it looking like it belongs in the franchise. All right, so next up is the Quetzalcoatlus, which is the last of the trilogy of animals they got to collect DNA from. Again, being the largest from land, sea, and air, Quetzalcoatlus and other pterosaurs weren't dinosaurs, but they were at least archosaurs. The first fossil remains of Quetzalcoatlus were recovered in 1971 from the Javelina Formation. Douglas Lawson would describe these as Quetzalcoatlus in 1975, with current estimates putting the wingspan around 36 feet, which in the trailer we hear Jonathan Bailey's Henry Loomis say that these were carnivores the size of an F-16, which isn't a terrible description as far as if you're comparing the wingspan, because with a wingspan of 36 feet, it compares very nicely to the F-16, which is 33 feet. Now, Quetzalcoatlus has featured previously in the franchise, appearing only in Dominion, but with an actually really nice, almost paleo-accurate design. Still some issues, but that was a really cool design. Had the pycnofibers, had a really nice crest, and where we think Quetzalcoatlus had the crest, it had nice coloring, but it was just way too big. Like, that thing was massive. A lot of sources say the Quetz in the previous film was cloned by Biosyn for the Sanctuary, which leaves me with some questions, because at the beginning in that news scene, we see a pair nesting at the top of the World Trade Center. So if they were bred specifically for the Biosyn Sanctuary, how did two get out? Like, why not make those like the Jurassic Park 3 Pteranodons? Like, I don't know. Just make them something different instead of Quetzalcoatlus. But again, just a weird error in continuity, I suppose. The one in Dominion definitely was much larger than the real animal. Some say it had the wingspan of 15 meters, but it definitely looked bigger than that when it was on top of the plane, and definitely when it was on top of the World Trade Center. Like, it looked pretty big. Definitely bigger than 15 meters to see it that well. But again, the design was rather good with the blue crest covered with pycnofibers that are light gray, had the yellowish beak. They just didn't really do a lot with it. Like, a lot of these dinosaurs, it's really cool to see them in Dominion, but they show up, they do one little thing, and then they're gone. They don't have a lot of screen time. So I'm glad they seem to have narrowed the roster of dinosaurs down. Still giving us a good amount, but it seems like they're narrowing the amount that we'll see down that interact, I guess, with our main cast. Now, the ones in the trailer do feature a redesign. They are Quetzalcoatlus, and I don't know if at any time they're supposed to be something different. Maybe Hatzegopteryx. That's something I wish would have been seen. Prehistoric Planet did it so well. One of my favorites in that series. So the ones in the trailer are like a dark gray, brownish in color. It does look like they still have pycnofibers on the body. Not as much as the head or neck, which seem maybe bare, but it does feature this cool like blue coloration with some like maybe quills at the top of the head. The crest itself is like a tan orange in color, and it also doesn't feature the crest in the location we think of for Quetzalcoatlus, but has like a weird like arrow type of feature at the front of the bill. So definitely an odd kind of redesign here as far as not making it look like the last one. Now, it does look like they've sized it down to be more in line with the real animal, which is great. And hey, the design can be different because that one being the Biosyn one, this one is the engine one and an early clone of the engine one. Much like all the animals featured in the trailer have some mutation that just isn't like the real animals. This one's the beak, maybe some other stuff we'll find out in the film. But as far as the scene it's in, where it's claustrophobic, it's trying to attack the characters as they're getting DNA from the eggs, I think it's going to be a fun scene. So I'm really excited to see how they use it. If it shows up, hopefully more than just a scene. There are at least 3 circling during this shot in the trailer. So who knows? Maybe they'll show up later in the movie, or just throughout the movie we'll see Quetzalcoatlus flying in the background or something, just to make it feel more like a world. And I'm sure you guys can tell I'm really excited to see the Quetz in action here in Jurassic World Rebirth, just to see how this scene plays out and how they actually use it. I'm hoping they use it a lot better than Dominion, which just used it to fly down pretty much the one time. So at least Quetzalcoatlus can get its due and hopefully be the Rebirth equivalent to that JP3 birdcage scene with those Pteranodons. So pretty neat. And that brings us to the final one, the first actual dinosaur of this portion of the video, and the one that I'm most excited about was the one on the thumbnail. I'm sure you guys know what it is. It is Spinosaurus. The first remains of Spinosaurus were described in 1912, and in 1915, a published article by Ernst Stromer assigned the specimen to Spinosaurus. Even at this time, Stromer realized his theropod was massive and similar in size to the American T-Rex. Unfortunately, this material was lost in 1944 due to an Allied bombing raid of Munich, where the museum housing this material was. Now, other materials such as a snout had been found since then and before the neotype was uncovered in 2014. With the recent discoveries and our expanding knowledge around Spinosaurus and how it actually looked, it has led some to joke about its constantly changing appearance and also debated on how much it actually swam or not. Now, current size estimates put a large Spinosaurus around 46 feet long, though some argue maybe up to 50, and a little over 8 short tons in weights. Spinosaurus gained mainstream notoriety thanks to the Jurassic franchise in Jurassic Park 3, where it took over for T-Rex as like the main dino, the villain dino, whatever you want to call it. It was the top of the food chain in JP3, even featuring in the logo and dispatching the Tyrannosaurus in a fight pretty early on in the film. The Spinosaurus in JP3 really wasn't too bad for our knowledge at the time. The depictions around this time of Spinosaurus had moved away from just Allosaurus with a cell to more of a larger baryonyx / Suchomimus with a cell. And you see that in the design of the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus. It looks like a 2001-esque Spinosaurus, just a big baryonyx with a cell, which, funny enough, baryonyx at one point was going to be the main dino of Jurassic Park 3, and then they gave it the size buff with Spinosaurus, with Jack Horner in the bonus material saying they wanted a dinosaur that could cause an extinction on the island.
So we went after a dinosaur that literally could cause an extinction on the island. The Spinosaurus is and was the biggest meat-eating dinosaur that ever lived.
With estimates of Spinosaurus at that time being up to 60 feet, he said.
So we found that Spinosaurus, the biggest one that has been found, had a skull that was 8 feet long and a body that was about 60 feet long.
So the Spinosaurus was massive. I mean, look at it compared to what was the Buck animatronic. It dwarfed it. Like, it made the Buck T-Rex look small. Again, it's not the same Tyrannosaurus in canon, but it's the same animatronic used between two. As far as like the gray, red, and blue, super iconic, super awesome design. It's one that I really wanted to see for a long time, but for a long time it also seemed like the Spinosaurus got blackballed. It was like blacklisted. It was not allowed to appear in Jurassic, and a lot of that seemed like it came from the Spinosaurus killing the T-Rex, which pretty much every other movie has done. But I guess it was at the time they did it, people just got so mad, and it felt like we'd never see Spinosaurus again in Jurassic franchise. I know they brought back the Spinosaurus in Camp Cretaceous, and it was even bigger in that one than what appeared in JP3, and again was able to dispatch a T-Rex, though when there were a couple, as well as they had just finished fighting some other dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus was able to at least scare off the Spinosaurus. Didn't kill it, though. Now, Spinosaurus not coming back to the franchise wasn't for a lack of trying, but I'm glad they didn't bring it back, because it sounds like a lot of the attempts to bring it back were the Jurassic Park 3 design just to get killed by Rexy. And I think you see that a lot through the franchise. Heck, in Jurassic World, Rexy, when it breaks out of the paddock to go fight the Indominus, breaks through a skeleton of a Spinosaurus, like saying, huh. And then early Jurassic Fallen Kingdom was trying to set up during the volcano eruption scene, Rexy and the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3 fighting each other until Rexy was able to defeat the Spinosaurus and kill it. This scene kind of got reworked into Rexy killing the Carnotaurus. And again, I'm glad that didn't happen. And then there was some kind of talk maybe the Spinosaurus would come back in Dominion, and I'm sure they would have killed it then. I'm glad they didn't have it come back to just fan fiction, kill it, or fan service, all the fans that just wanted to see T-Rex just dismantle Spinosaurus. I think that's just lazy writing. If you don't have an actual reason for the animal to be there, I don't think that's a reason to put it in the film. So I'm glad overall it didn't come back there, though I do wish we saw the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus again in film. Spinosaurus is my favorite dinosaur, and for me, I just feel so torn because I wish we had seen that design back on film. It's such a good design. Like Jurassic Park 3 overall, like with the Raptors, with the coloration of the Buck T-Rex, and with the Spinosaurus, these are some of my favorite designs in the Jurassic franchise. Yes, they're maybe not super accurate, especially with Spinosaurus, but I love them. I don't know what it is. They just look so good on film. Speaking of accuracy, we have learned a lot since 2001 when the film came out. We've learned about Spinosaurus aegyptiacus having small hind legs. It had a longer body, a longer neck, a much skinnier skull. Maybe not as skinny of a skull as Suchomimus, which, having seen that one in person, that has a skinny skull. Like looking head on, it's like almost nothing. It's crazy. As well as not having like horns or projections above the eyes, it had a single crest kind of running on the top of its head. The shape of its cell may or may not have been different than what we saw in JP3, though we really don't have a complete cell. So when you see reconstructions of Spinosaurus's cell, it differs. Some half circles, some are almost more like hump-like, where the cell peaks early and then kind of tapers down. Others have that M shape like we saw in the 2014 restoration. Others are boxy. We've also learned since 2001 that Spinosaurus had a very interesting looking tail with a kind of almost mini fin on it, kind of like the basilisk lizard. And again, it goes back and forth. Were these swimming and feeding that way, or were they patrolling the shoreline and feeding like herons and storks and stuff like that? And that brings us to Jurassic World Rebirth. When rumors dropped that Spinosaurus would be back, I didn't give my hopes up. I didn't want to get too excited, but then we got confirmation pretty early on that Spinosaurus would be in it, and it would be in scenes that put our main characters in peril, but also kind of filled a role like the Tyrannosaurus at the end of Jurassic Park, where it may or may not save the main cast at other parts. It also said we'd get a more paleo-accurate Spinosaurus, so sadly, it meant we would not be seeing the JP3 one back. Of course, they also said the dinosaurs would have mutations, so maybe it would lean more in line with JP3. And then the trailer released, and this is definitely the dinosaur design I think outside of the Mutant has gotten the most controversy. I've seen people that love it, and I see people that hate the design. Now, our first actual proof of Spinosaurus in Jurassic World Rebirth was a picture from Variety that showed 3 cells in the water alongside the Mosasaurus. And at first, kind of worried because it just seemed like overkill, like what's going on. But then the trailer drops. We see an explanation that the 3 Spinosaurs are actually kind of working together with the Mosasaurus and maybe a symbiotic relationship, which we do see in modern animals today. I mean, look at pilot whales and oceanic whitetips hunt together. So this one, maybe not too off of realism there. Also in the trailer, when these 2 Spinosaurs pass each other, they do snap at each other. So even if maybe they are kind of working together, they're still kind of territorial to each other. Now, of course, I saw comments when the picture dropped that said, good, there's 3 of them. 1 for the mutant to kill, 1 for the Mosasaur to kill, and 1 for the T-Rex to kill. And I was just like, no, that's so dumb. Like, if 1 dies, but if you're just like setting it, again, if you're just putting dinosaurs in there to write some fan fiction, don't put it in. But we do get a better look at the Spinosaurus a little bit later in the trailer, which shows it leaping out of the water to attack people on the boat. And the head shape and the design and the coloration, man, some people are just not liking it. Early on with some of the rumors and leaks, we heard the design of the head looked more in line with the Jurassic World Baryonyx than the real Spinosaurus, or even in line with the JP3 Spinosaurus. Now, from the brief glimpses we've seen in the trailer, I don't think the head is as bad as the Baryonyx one. I don't hate that design. It's not very accurate either, though. It does look like the Spinosaurus's head is more narrow, especially at the very tip of the snout. It looks much more narrow than the Baryonyx, though it does look blocky at the base of the skull. But I gotta say, overall, I kind of dig it. Yes, it might not be that iconic Spinosaurus design that has a special place in my heart. You know, I just love that design. But this one's kind of cool too. It's just, it's a little bit more paleo accurate, maybe not 100%. There's either some weird design choices or just shadows or something going on around the ear region here. It looks massive, but I like it. I wish the color was more blue in color like we kind of got from the rumors, but I do love that each Spinosaurus cell looks different. And again, it's just the angle. Yeah, the neck looks thick, and it's not in line with our current thinking of Spinosaurus, though I think the neck
that we have was originally assigned to Sigilomastosaurus, and a lot of it is just based more off of Suchomimus and Baryonyx, which do have long necks. Now, we do see them actively swimming and swimming well, so maybe they're trying to make it look just more crocodilian-like. And crocodiles, because they're aquatic, have beefier, shorter necks. From the trailer too, it does look like it has more of a current understanding Spinosaurus tell. And kind of luckily for this video, a picture of the Spinosaurus toy has dropped, which gives us a look at maybe what the Spinosaurus looks like out of the water. And overall, I like it. It looks pretty cool. I know people are sad that it's not the JP3 one, but I'm just so happy to have Spinosaurus back. I honestly did not think we'd ever see Spinosaurus back in the Jurassic franchise movie because people were so mad about the T-Rex fight. It looks like it's definitely more up-to-date in design, though it has some weird design choices, but then it does lean into that idea of these being prototypes or dinosaurs with weird mutations that weren't good for the park. Of course, that last Spinosaurus was a terror. That might be the most powerful theropod we've seen in the Jurassic franchise. So if these ones were too dangerous for the park, I wonder how just terrifying they're going to be. It's cool to see them working together with the Mosasaurus in like a symbiotic relationship. We'll see how that scene turns out. I'm sure there'll be some infighting between the two. But yeah, now finally seeing it again in the flesh in the Jurassic franchise, I'm excited. It looks really well detailed in the shots. Honestly, all the animals really do. The CGI work just looks much better than I had expected it because it's early on. It's the first trailer. Usually you got some more work to do before the movie comes out. So if they're still going to be working on it, I think the dinosaurs are going to look fantastic. If the design in the film does end up looking more like the toy, I'm pretty excited. It's odd. It doesn't look right, but Spinosaurus as a whole is an odd looking dinosaur. And again, it's just a Spinosaurus with weird mutations. It's not perfect. They hadn't really fine-tuned the cloning process yet, so there's weird mutations. Maybe they were splicing the DNA with different genes. It wasn't frog genes yet, and that's why the one in JP3 looks different. Maybe they just had honed that one better. Maybe in universe, that's what Spinosaurus looks like. Or maybe another company cloned these ones. We'll find out. Again, the movie's not out. We've seen that the Spinosaurus' design for Rebirth might have got a slight kind of redesign because a t-shirt design came out, and at least with the head shape, it looks different than what we see in the film, because in the film, it looks more Spinosaurus while still kind of feeling crocodilian, whereas the t-shirt design definitely looks crocodilian. Still like it. I love Spinosaurus. I'm just happy. I mean, hey, look, even the teeth look conical, though they do look kind of crocodilian because they're kind of just spouting out everywhere. So again, dinosaur with mutations. It's not supposed to be 100% scientifically accurate. I think we're going to be getting one of those in the new Walking with Dinosaurs series. At least that's what I've heard. So I'm excited. We're going to get the best of both worlds. So a couple last things. I will say from this shot here, I feel like I can see the Jurassic Park 3 design still in there. It's like obviously they're trying to bring it more up to date, but they don't want to completely lose it. And I don't know, it's something around just the orbit and the eye, just above the eye, how the ridge is, and the shape right there at the top of the skull. If you compare the two, I don't know, to me, every time I look at it, I'm like, I can see a little bit of JP3 Spinosaurus in there. And again, from this view, the skull isn't as wide as it looks from the other. It just gets really wide at the base of the skull, and I don't know why. And one final thing, this picture here, just something about it reminds me of my cute little beardy Mango when she's just chilling on the log right here. Just compare the two. It's kind of like the same energy. I'm excited to see how this develops the lore. We have heard in interviews or Reddit interviews that they don't want to do retconning. So again, that just opens the mind to maybe, even if this was the original Jurassic Park, like factory floor or whatever, maybe another company's using it now. Maybe that's why these dinosaurs look different. They just don't have the cloning process down to a T like InGen did. Definitely not like Maserati, and definitely not like Biosyn. And I know some of you are going to be like, aren't you the same guy that was mad about the Giganotosaurus design? And yeah, when I first saw that one, I was like, what is this? I definitely grew to like the design. It's a good movie dinosaur. It's not very accurate, and I don't mind if they're not accurate. Why that design jumped out so much compared to like the Spinosaurus
and maybe it's a little biased because Spinosaurus is my favorite, but Giganotosaurus is up there, is just because early on in the promotional stuff, we heard these are going to be the most accurate looking dinosaurs. And then we got that. And you're like, what is this? But overall, that one's grown on me. Yeah, I don't hate it. I'm sure you guys have seen my growth with that design. It's definitely just not scientifically accurate. And so I'm glad with this movie, they obviously wanted to do some designs that weren't scientifically accurate. And I'm glad they were like, hey, these are going to have mutations because they're even earlier prototypes than what we saw in Jurassic Park. So the cloning process was even worse. So I think that's cool out of the lore. If you don't want to have scientifically accurate dinosaurs, you don't have to in a movie. It's a movie. But considering Jurassic Park was trying to depict the dinosaurs in the best scientific light of the time, I'm glad if you're going to kind of make them more monster-fied, you're just like, hey, these are bad mutations. Even Jurassic Park was like, yeah, we can't display these. Just let them roam free on the island. But like I said, guys, I will be back this year, probably pretty soon, with some Jurassic dinosaur species files. I haven't decided what I'm going to call it yet, but I'll be back because I love the franchise and you guys seem to like the videos. So why not give you guys more of what you like while also doing stuff I enjoy. Any dinosaur or prehistoric animal that has appeared in this trailer, though, or is rumored to appear in the movie, I'm not going to do till after the film, just because I want to wait to get all the information. We're not sure how this is going to interact with the current lore, current canons, so let's just wait for those. But I definitely have a few that I can record and talk about before the movie comes up. And I'll be doing more Jurassic Park stuff. Been doing a lot of the books. I'll be doing Jurassic Survivor 2 and 3 before the movie comes out. Hell, I might even reread and discuss Jurassic Park and the Lost World by Michael Crichton, as well as some of these like outside books. And hey, we've already done a lot of Jurassic material on the channel. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope you guys are looking forward to those. If you guys want more Jurassic Park, Jurassic World related material, a playlist will be popping up to your bottom left. If you want more Fossil Frenzy and more episodes where we're doing like more discussions about certain specimens, locations, or new scientific papers, which we'll have a new one out soon, click that link to your left. For more about what we're doing here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your top right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know, out of the dinosaurs shown off in the Jurassic World Rebirth trailer, which one is your favorite? Tell us in the comments below.